Oh, so it's such a great pleasure to be here today with all of you, celebrating the FOP Awareness Day. This is really special. So Marie, thank you so much for the invite for us to come. This is really a pleasure and honor for us.
And thank you for being with us.
Yeah, we really appreciate, and this is really a special day. So thank you very much. So let me introduce myself. My name is Stéphanie Hoffmann. I'm Belgian, French speaking, you can hear that. I live in Belgium. And I've been working in the field of rare disease for over 15 years, meeting patient organization and families, physicians involved in other rare disease and also other metabolic bone disease. So I'm very happy now to be involved in the FOP adventure. And I'm leading this project called FOP Patient Narrative Project. And I'm part of Eric's team at Clementia, and very happy to be part of his team. So Eric, I don't know if you want to introduce yourself a little bit now before I just present the project.
I will rejoin things when we get to the questions. But my name is Eric Grinstead. My job is with Clementia. I work for Clarissa Desjardins. And Stéphanie and I both share responsibility to make sure that patients that want access to Clementia's products can get it. And so we are responsible for a future situation, a scenario in which we imagine that palovarotene would receive the marketing authorization that Michael was talking about, and we try to anticipate what will be necessary to facilitate access to the patients and palovarotene at that time. So that's there's not, in these rare diseases, there's not a lot of existing therapeutic structure in place now. It's not like we're developing a drug for a more common disease where people know who the specialist is and know what the requirements are for diagnosing, for referring, for treating. Those things are all in front of us now. And so we have a great opportunity to get a head start, and we're so thankful that Marie has invited us to work with the Nordic patient community.
Perfect. So please stop me anytime if you have any question. This is a project that is a little bit, I would say, underground. I mean, maybe less concrete than a clinical trial. So if there is any term that I'm using that you are not familiar with, please stop me and I try to explain it in other words. Okay? Okay, so what is this project about? FOP Patient Narrative Project. So what we try to do is to document the FOP patient experience intersecting with the health system in different countries. Which are the physician, that the patient would meet along the trajectory before diagnosis, for diagnosis, or after diagnosis and long-term care. Which are the detours that happen? Which are the misdiagnosis posed? Which are the obstacles to optimal trajectory? This is the type of things we try to understand, and the commonalities and differences among countries. Okay? We also want to try to predict what would happen in case palovarotene would become available. If these days happens, would the trajectory change? Would the health system change? Would different physicians become involved or other stakeholders? Would there be obstacles again or barriers that we need to know now to be able to prepare in advance? And with these learnings, we hope, Eric and I and the rest of the team, to adapt a plan based on the learnings of this project. And one of the concrete learning could be, okay, which are the misperception about the disease, the lack of awareness, and then we would know which physician to go to increase awareness and educate about FOP. Which are the message on the disease that are not well understood? So which are the message that we can help to disseminate? And again, all of these things, we feel we have a role to play, but it's a collaborative effort. We will contribute what an industry can contribute, but of course physicians play a crucial role there, and you all as experts living with the disease. So this is really a collaborative project, but here we are leading it, but working all together with you and hoping that in the future, with the learnings, you know, we would all play a role to just prepare in case there would be therapy. Okay, this is clear? Okay. So I've already raised a few topics that will be addressed in the project. So we try to further define the initial symptoms. There are different presenting profiles, you know, different early signs. Every patient has a different trajectory, as you know that. Which are the referral patterns for diagnosis, before and after diagnosis? Which are the information or the source of information, you as patient or for the physicians regarding FOP? Where are the gaps? Okay. Which are the misperception, the specific role responsibilities of the different specialties, medical specialties. And that might vary from one country to another, or even one region to another. So these are the type of things we would like to understand too. Also the timeline, you know, the timeline for different steps, the procedures to get a diagnosis made, the tests that are needed, etc., etc. Okay? Why this project? And Eric touched already a little bit about it. Is our passion at Clementia is we would like to link the therapies to the patient. But that requires a lot of steps. And Michael already introduced to you the complexity of the clinical and regulatory development pathway. There are a lot of steps. We are unsure about the timing. We just put all efforts to go as fast as possible, but we don't control all steps. And also even steps after a regulatory approval. That in every country, you need to make sure that, you know, you have a price and reimbursement, etc. But this is one pathway. But in parallel, what we can do already and what needs to be done, as Eric mentioned, is to really develop this whole healthcare infrastructure around FOP. Make sure that the patient are diagnosed more rapidly, that reach to the physician that has experience with FOP. We know that there are not many experts like Dr. Kaplan, but there would be more and more physicians experienced. And it would be good if, you know, the patients that are diagnosed would be at least in the hands of physicians that know a little bit about FOP. Okay, so all the things need to be prepared. So they need to be centers of expertise. There are some inefficiencies. You all suffer from that, live with that in the systems. I'm also referring here to an article that Eric read, and I thought was a nice reference. You know, studies suggest that it takes about 17 years, normally, for research evidence to reach the clinical practice. So if we do nothing, it can take a lot of time. So we feel that we can contribute to try to accelerate that by preparing well in advance, in parallel to the clinical and regulatory pathway. Okay, and we all have a role to play. That's what I said earlier. This is really a collaborative effort. Make sense? So how will the project be implemented? And it has already started, as I could understand a little bit what Marie was sharing with you. So we will have, or we are having interviews with patients and caregivers. And in these interviews, you know, you are the ones that really, you know, live the disease, live this on an everyday basis. So you have the full information from day one. And this is precious. So this is why, you know, we really treasure our discussion with you. We also talk to physician experience with FOP. They have the experience on a specific patient trajectory as from a certain moment. Okay? So they might not know the whole story of all the patient, but at least they add the medical expertise, medical judgment, and we want to hear about that. So this is very important. So that's what we are doing with these interviews with experienced FOP physician. After that, after having talked to both patient and physician experienced, we think we can identify the right specialists, the medical specialties that are involved in the project. And we would like to dare reach out to hundreds of these specialists. So we call them naive physicians, so they're not naive, just naive, they are naive to FOP, right? But susceptible to bounce against an FOP patient in their medical life, right? So we would like to understand and do a real quantitative market research with them to understand how they would react if they see a hypothetical FOP patient. And then we can again learn about what they would do and what is misunderstood about the disease and what, how we can then, better educate this specialty versus another, etc. Okay? And then the last piece is the discussion with local health system experts. These are usually industry experts that have the expertise with orphan drugs. They are country experts. They really know very well how in a specific country to navigate the system, because when you think about access for orphan drugs, so therapies for rare disease, usually in many countries there is slightly different pathway than a traditional medicine. So it's important to understand how then, if hypothetically there would be a drug safe, so approved for FOP, to know how it would fit in the system in each country. Okay, so we have hypotheses about how these patients intersect with health system, depending on their presenting indication. And these hypotheses have been drafted based on medical review. So a team in Clementia has done huge medical review and made some hypotheses about different presentation of patient. And we would like, with this project, we will be able to vet this hypothesis, refine this hypothesis with the input of this 4 different step research. And then we will learn from that again. And then based on that, we can adapt our planning. Okay? Any questions so far? No? So, important. We have key principle for this project. This is a project, that can go many directions. So we need to remain focused. Focus and objective, and I described the objective early on. This is very important. At this stage, we have so many things in our mind when we discuss with Eric. We can do so many things because, there's a lot to be done. But we need to focus. So we're going to focus on the objective we have. There are many other projects that Clementia is undertaking. We will leverage with them. So we'll make sure that the learnings are shared and can influence other projects and vice versa. So we don't want to restrict ourselves, but we want to remain focused. Okay? So the scope of the project this year would be North America, so US, Canada, and European countries. And next year, we hope to reach other continents with this project. Another very important point is to be compliant with the local rules and regulation. So we have consultant, a lawyer, to make sure that we implement the project according to the right national regulation in each country. Specifically thinking about data privacy regulation. This is of utmost importance. Okay. And this is clear that this project is not to promote any product from Clementia. So this is not the ones that have been interviewed, and no, we don't talk about that. Okay. And again, this is a collaborative approach, and we really value the input that we got here. For example, just to talk about the Swedish implementation, is the work with Marie about, preparing, making sure that we identify the interviewees. This is fantastic. We also got input from a physician and other patient representative in the design of the questionnaires. We really wanted to make sure that, this is not just us thinking at something, but collaborative effort. Okay. Also, we will share the high-level results of this project with the community. Because we think that, again, we all have a role, and you can also learn from what we learn and do something with it afterwards. Okay. Oh, yeah. Perfect. That's even better than the other one. I have to stay here. Why don't I stay like that? Okay. Good. Oh, like there. Good. Okay, so I cannot walk. Good, good. Okay, perfect. So the flexible approach is very important because, for example, initially we thought we first do all the interview of the patients and afterwards we learn from it and interview the physician. And then we just said, no, this is ridiculous. Let's do that in parallel. We can learn from each other. So we realized that it's important to be flexible. Opportunistic, if there is a medical conference where we can interview physician, hey, let's go there and let's just stick to something too restrictive. So this is our guiding principles. So quickly, here the timeline. Started with the patient interview, just to give you an idea of the amount of the interviews. We think about 20, 30 interviews in total, covering European countries and North America. So we are not thinking about huge amounts, just to give you an idea. Physician interview, same amount. The experienced FOP physician. You see, we are today here. We already started these 2 phases. And then, as from June, we hope to launch a real, true market research. This is a classical market research, where we will have a web research with hundreds of specialists. And we will focus in the USA first, and then see what we can do in other countries. Okay? And then we have the interview of the health system experts, slightly later. We would hope that for December, we have the first results, a report ready for sharing. Again, there might be things happening next year, but at least at the end of this year, we want to have a first report. Okay? So just the update of the rollout. We had already done interviews in Italy and in the UK, but only patient interview. In Sweden, I understood, Marie explained to you, this week we were very busy with interviews, so thank you for the one who contributed so much. And we also plan to implement the project in the US, in Canada, in Germany, in France this year. We still have a lot to do. And in Russia, yeah.